It's the weekly wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. Tim and I are now going to review Barbie, Oppenheimer, and Sound of Freedom. Only problem is I didn't see any of those movies yet. Tim, have you seen any of them?
Did you notice I don't have a screen up there, Bruce?
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Because last week I did a Barbie background, and the two big movies, we got Barbie and The Bomb. So last week was Barbie, this week The Bomb.
Very good, very good. No, Indiana Jones is The Bomb. It didn't. I mixed reviews about that. Did they use AI or CG or whatever for Harrison Ford, who's
I think they
now?
did. I think they had part of the movie. I didn't go see it, and I won't see it because in the trailer there's this thing where it goes, well, I stole it from you, he stole it from him. That's just capitalism. And I think no, I want no interest.
I love the makers of Indiana Jones, this franchise that's made millions and millions and millions of dollars, complaining about capitalism. The true capitalist does that. Yeah,
absolutely. So it's I guess he went back to 1939. So they had to youth. Well, not euthanize, but that's the wrong word.
Yeah,
they had to CGI a youthful Harrison Ford.
Oh, I see.
And this one was supposed to take place in 1969, which isn't exactly right because it should have been like if it aged correctly to how much older Harrison Ford is now. This one should have been like 1982.
Well, there is a little bit of poetic licentiousness that goes on with that stuff. Yeah, but I would have not watched it for the same reason that you didn't. But anyway, as far as these blockbuster movies, and it doesn't bother me that we didn't see the movies. Well,
have you seen any of the three movies we're reviewing? Well, four now. I added a fourth.
No, I haven't seen. We don't go to the movies anymore. My wife and I watch we pay enough for Netflix and Hulu and everything like that. I mean, we are stuck. And I admit that I don't even think I'm at the middle brow level anymore. I think I am so low brow. We watched this series called Justified with Timothy Oliphant. They did 6 seasons of it.
Let me guess. Timothy Oliphant plays a cowboy.
Exactly.
Just a guess.
Does he do it? Does he do it in everything?
Yeah. He plays the sheriff. He plays the sheriff in almost everything he plays.
Well, that's what he does, and he's great. And he's a hunk. He's got these beautiful eyes. Oh my God! But what I love about it is it ran for 6 seasons. We watched all 6 seasons. We binged on it, and they've just come out with a new one that's on FX, and you can only watch one episode a week, and it's killing us that we can't binge on it.
Old style TV, appointment TV.
But the great thing is they must have at least 4 or 5, maybe up to 10 people shot to death in each episode. And there's 2 shootings at least. You multiply that over 13 episodes over 6 seasons. I think you're talking about a couple of hundred quality kill moments, and they do them all differently. So there obviously there's blood spatters on the wall all the time, and God knows I wish that Dexter would make a cameo appearance just as the blood spatter analyst, walk through the scene, hockey and picking up samples. But that would be nice. But it's done very well. And the dialogue is Elmore Leonard. It's based on an Elmore Leonard short story, I guess, or book, and it's written in that style. So people talking aphorisms, and it's excellent, and we just love it. And we tried to watch The Bear, because everybody says it's wonderful and it's about a Chicago restaurant and
Based on Mr. Beef, I guess.
yeah, and there's fast cutting and there's intense dialogue, and I know that it's good. I can there's obviously it is. I'm just not up for it. I mean, give me my justified.
A little too fast paced.
I think it's just too
upsetting?
smart. I just think it's too smart. I can't handle that right now, but maybe I'll come to it in the future. Anyway, as far as these movies go, I used to do a bit many years ago on the radio where I would I'd review reviews. It was kind of a meta thing. I would just look at the various movie reviews. Either that or I would say I can't look at a review because I'm the kind of person who's so impressionable. You know, I'd sit in the movie theater and just under my breath, but enough audible enough so that, you know, in a stage whisper so that people could actually hear it. I would say, oh, you know, Ebert thought that this was a very textured performance. So it was just something that draw attention to myself. But anyway, I have read some reviews of Barbie, okay, from conservatives. And the view of Barbie is split among conservatives. You got a guy, this Armand White, who writes for National Review. I don't understand what he's talking about. He is very accessible, though. I've talked to him on Twitter. Why don't you like The Wire? Because I liked it and I'm stupid. And he says, I think he said it's because it's just reinforces stereotypes. No, I thought it was gritty. Anyway, but he's a minority view on a lot of things. But you know, he's the critic for it. He says, oh, it's just this ideological pap. Kyle Smith, who used to write for National Review, now writes for the Wall Street Journal, also didn't like it. He said, imagine the Mario and Luigi movie written by somebody who hates the characters. So, but on the other hand, Jim Pethokoukis, Jeopardy champion, economic guru for the American Enterprise Institute, Chicagoan, he liked it. And so did this young guy named Jack Butler for National Review. He said, you really got to dig. Greta Gerwig is not really that ideologically a feminist. It's more textured than that. It reminds me, Tim, a little bit of, remember the movie Revolutionary Road? Did you follow it? It was this suburban thing. Leonardo DiCaprio was in it. That girl from Titanic was in it as well. But it looked like it was.
I thought that was Leonardo DiCaprio.
Hi, thanks for saving this, Tim. Boy, I know I appreciate that. Oh my goodness, where is he wandering? Okay, so no, but it looked like it was anti-suburban, whereas, and maybe the movie was, but the original novel was in favor of suburbia. There was nothing wrong with suburbia. It reminds me a little bit of the Oprah misinterpretation of Anna Karenina, which I have not read, but I like to drop the name. She thinks the moral of Anna Karenina is to, go where your heart goes, go for the love. Whereas Tolstoy was saying, no, she had a pretty decent life and everything like that. And she screwed it up and wound up, getting hit, throwing herself in front of a train. That's the real message of Anna Karenina. But people like Oprah are duped. Well, so
I'm guessing Oprah didn't finish the book.
I credit her for, I read a couple of the dance scenes. I like that. But, anyway, it was Kate Winslet in Revolutionary Road is right. So, what I'm saying is that maybe if you see Barbie, and I'm not saying you go ahead and see it, but
I'm going to see it. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to go see it in a theater, but I'm definitely going to see it.
Yeah,
it's too much. It's too much of a cultural touchstone to miss.
Yeah, it does seem like it's got to be seen, but I'm sorry that I can't. Let me say this. I believe Ryan Gosling's performance is textured. There's no question about it. So
Mel Brooks,
and I loved him in that La La Land as well. I really liked that movie. One of the big reasons I liked La La Land was we saw it. Jews go to get Chinese food and see a movie on Christmas. Well, that was Christmas. We saw it was a Christmas movie, and usually the movies are awful, and I'm kind of sick of the Chinese food too. But it was fun. It was good. Anyway, as far as Oppenheimer goes, also didn't see that. I do know people who have seen it though. And a golfing buddy of mine said, very good, but it's way too long. 3 hours. They could have cut out a lot of it.
He filmed it on IMAX 70 millimeter film.
Okay.
The actual, if you watch an actual print of it, and there's only 19 theaters running it, it is the print is 11 miles long.
Really? Did you see the movie?
I really want to see it. I really want to see it on 70 millimeter IMAX, and there's only 19 theaters in this country. So I either have to go to Grand Rapids or Indianapolis. I haven't decided. I haven't decided if I'm really married to I love Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
And I really want to see it in the way he filmed it rather than in digital.
I don't know if I don't know if I could take 3 hours. So maybe they could do a shortened version where they just do Hiroshima and not Nagasaki. I don't know. But hey, great making atomic bomb jokes. Okay, I bombed with that one. I apologize for that.
Too soon, Bruce.
Yeah,
too
soon. It is. Oh, well, speaking of the atomic bomb, so some lefty tweeted that we dropped the bomb because we had invested a lot of money in it, that the Japanese were actually ready to surrender before we dropped it. Well, that's just not true. Okay. I mean, we were facing about 1 million casualties. Somebody tweeted, it's pretty funny, that the person who had said this, it's Ida Bay Wells. You're saying you're the one who poorly understands history. They dropped the bomb when they knew surrender was coming because they'd spent all this money developing it and to prove it was worth it. Propaganda is not history, my friend. And somebody commented on that tweet and said, this sounds like it's the 1945 project, which is pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, that's not what happened. I mean, we were facing 1 million casualties and it was a hard decision, but we had to make it. Damn it. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle, with one of the most wonderful movie review shows you're ever going to see on the Weekly Wrap. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. And Tim, I do note that you had a tweet. I can't remember what it was, but it was funny. I think I liked it. About Snow White and Barbie.
Oh yeah, because apparently they've done Hamilton casting for Snow White. Is my understanding is that they contacted Peter Dinklage,
right,
and they said, we're doing Snow White, do you want to be one of the dwarfs? And he flipped. He literally flipped on them, saying, I can't believe you're still reinforcing this stereotype in 2023. So they went and they got a whole bunch of diverse. And
wait a minute. Why would Peter Dinklage, and of course that, everybody's talked about that name. I mean, it's so layered.
Like Dick Johnson, Peter O'Toole.
Right. No, but he didn't mind playing a dwarf in Game of Thrones. So now all of a sudden he's getting crazy. That he would. I mean,
maybe he's got a little bit of Herbie Villechaize disease.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking Peter Dinklage gets to pick which dwarf he wants to be. Go ahead. You want to be sleepy? You want to be Doc, bashful? Yeah. You. Whereas Herbie Villechaize,
he's angry.
He's stuck with whatever.
He's definitely angry, or indignant. I guess would be the new.
Right.
That's settle down, Peter. Maybe Biden can make you ambassador to Japan.
Absolutely.
Coming on the joke on the back end.
No, nothing like getting an allusion to Tim's classic joke about Rahm Emanuel
and Snow White. Snow White is Hispanic, so it's
all right. I saw
Snow Blanca.
I didn't read any of the stuff about this, but I saw that who's that? Oh, Ben Shapiro, the fast talking guy, from Chicago, White Sox fan, real smart guy. He said that Snow White's got to be white. I think that's what he said. And I don't think so. I mean, I get the Hamilton. I kind of like the Hamiltonization. It makes us, gets us all together. Have. Go ahead.
It's Snow White. When she was born, her mother said that I want a daughter with skin as white as the snow and lips as red as an apple. That's I mean, that's in the story. I mean, so
Yeah.
and if you're thinking about it, a buddy of mine pointed out we're culturally appropriating the Grimm brothers.
Well, look, but you can do it for white people. I mean, that's the exception. No, I
Oh,
get it. You know what? I wouldn't even. It would be fine with me if they kept the same lines in there and they had a black woman do it. As long as she's hot. I mean that would be as
that's
long
the
as she wasn't
important thing.
fat. But no,
Yeah,
I
you don't want Snow Lizzo.
well, no. See, now we're gonna get in trouble here. And she could sing some great numbers. Anyway, yeah, I we don't need to get into that
Someday
controversy
my
too much.
pizza will come.
All right, so now it's time for what do we call this bit again? It's
Tim's
Wolf's
Town
World.
and Wolf's World.
Wolf's World. It's Wolf's World, and Tim Talk is that what it's called? I think
Tim's Town.
Tim's Town, Wolf's World, and this is I've refreshed my recollection on what this bit is. I know all our writers are on strike, and we may walk out in sympathy, but we're going to try and vamp through this bit. Chris, go ahead and lead us into it.
I forget which comedian said it, that he does not post on Twitter, pardon me, X, because he doesn't want to give away material. It wasn't Tim, but some comedian had said that. So yes, so you guys give away your materials occasionally on Twitter and Facebook or Facebook. Right. And I scroll through, see if there's some keepers, ones that I have questions about, ones that deserve a second wind, if you will. And
before you do that, if I may interrupt, because I know that you don't have that much material, so you're probably begging for me to do this. But I have seen like Albert Brooks, who I thought was, a genius and real funny, on Twitter. I mean, just awful. I mean, it's like he's working out it. I don't think you work out your material on Twitter. I think, that's the end point. And
I've tried some. I've tried lines.
Okay, maybe jump. I mean, it was. You know what the thing is? Guys like Albert Brooks would use Twitter. They weren't even trying to be funny. They were just, they wanted to spout their political opinions, and they don't really have that much to offer. And I'd rather see him do Modern Romance or whatever. Anyway, okay, so Chris, I
don't want to put a bow on one more thing, because you're talking about Snow White and cultural appropriation. Did anyone see the report that someone condemned Oppenheimer because not a person of color is seen until 33 minutes into the movie? So trying to rewrite history. So like you said, it's okay to remove the white folks, but the person was up in arms because you do not see, and they only had 3 lines, that person too. So they were.
Right. It reminds me a little bit of, they did like The Music Man with Matthew Broderick, I think, and it's about River City, Iowa from the turn of the century. And, they made sure to have black people in there, which never would have, but that's a musical. I can understand doing it. It's an imaginative thing, but Oppenheimer is supposed to be what really happened. So, you want to just throw that in.
Well, I understand the actor playing Oppenheimer isn't Jewish.
Oh, it's terrible. That's awful. That's awful. I just want to make sure that if they ever make a movie about the Rosenbergs, that those are Jews that play the Rosenbergs. That's all I care about. Okay. All right. Let's
go to the first one.
Okay.
We'll go to Tim's Town, and this one, I wanted to put this one up just to remind people that Jimmy Carter is not dead.
Right.
So this was Tim. Jimmy Carter can now go peacefully resting assured that history will no longer remember him as the worst president ever. Also, a little funny.
And the date of this is February 18th of this year.
He's still not dead.
No.
Longest hospice ever.
Really? Yeah, I think Jimmy Carter has lasted in hospice 4 times as long as William Henry Harrison lasted as president. So there's a little presidential trivia for you.
Next we go to Wolf's World, and this one, because I think Bruce, whenever it comes up, when Tim brings it up or somebody brings it up, you still seem to you kind of side on the Mike Lindell. Everyone thinks it's the Mike Lindell stolen election theory when people don't really think that. But whenever someone brings it up, you're like, that's not what people think. But it's not what people think. So here was your little tete-a-tete with your former partner.
Okay.
So Dan Proft posts Nowhere USA Yahoo saying the 20 election was stolen, no power to change the outcome, threat to our democracy. And then he goes through, Page not become a president, and Peter Strzok saying, no, we'll stop it. And the FBI, yada, yada. And then you posted saying, except that's not what anyone thinks when you say stolen election. You think they should, but they don't. But I think everybody does think that those were the kind of things on top of, the paper ballots that weren't.
Donald Trump does not think. Look, there's all kinds of things. I mean, look at what's going on with Hunter Biden right now. I mean, that they sat on the laptop. Now, I don't know how many votes would have changed. Well, it depends what we find out ultimately. I mean, if Biden was getting some of that $11 million, yeah, that. We'd like to have that election back.
According to polling, though, enough independents said that if they had known about the laptop, that they probably would not have voted for Biden.
It's possible, and you'd only need to change 40,000 votes in a few states, so maybe it is. But when Trump says stolen election, it's ballots, and that's his hardcore believes that. They believe that the ballots were fiddled with. Tim believes the ballots were fiddled with. Right?
Yeah.
Well, the mail-in ballots.
There's postal. Yeah, there's postal clerks have now signed affidavits that they saw a bunch of ballots being collected.
All right. So, Chris, all I'm saying is that you're telling Tim that he doesn't believe in what he believes in, and
no, I think when you talk about, and again, we go back to the total of I think 40,000 votes between 4 states. You're talking about tinkering with a couple ballots here this way. You're talking.
It's more than a couple ballots. It's more than a couple of ballots. Look, Wisconsin, there was I forgot the name of the conservative outfit, and we've talked about this before. Wisconsin, a conservative outfit went through it. It, looked like there were things that were screwy. They didn't find anything there. I mean, Tim will still say that Arizona, went screwy, but what happened? All I know is that the GOP of Arizona went bankrupt investing in trying to overturn the election. So that's what they believe. I don't believe that, and that's not what I believe but that is what people believe when they say the election was stolen. Chris, you think there are other things, and I agree that there are other things that have happened, but a lot of that just falls under the dirty tricks that everybody's doing from time immemorial.
But even, I don't know if you saw any of the interview Brett Baer had with Trump. Trump even rattles off like 5 things, and he includes some of the ballot quote unquote hijinks, but he also rattles into the things like suppressing the laptop story. He gets into all those things.
Actually, I have problems with Brett Baer too. I mean, I have more problems with Brett Baer than I do with Tucker Carlson, because everybody knows about Tucker. But Brett apparently on election night wanted to slow walk the Arizona results because he didn't want to hurt the audience, and he even supposedly said that he wanted to put Arizona back in Trump's column where it never was in the first place, and nobody's ever questioned him about it because I don't know why.
No one's ever questioned Brett Baer about it. They fired that Chris Stirewalt over it,
but they didn't question Brett Baer over it.
About Brett Baer just questioning that maybe we shouldn't be calling it this quickly.
No, it wasn't that. He wanted to slow walk the results, and he wanted to actually put it. There's a quote from him that he wanted to put it back in Trump's column, and it needs to be explained, and nobody's ever made him explain it.
I think he wanted to put it, he didn't want to put it not called yet, not put it in Trump's column.
No, he wanted it. The quote is and it doesn't even, it defies sense because it was never in Trump's column, but that's what he said supposedly, and nobody's questioned him.
I can't believe the show has never done a deep dive into the last few episodes of Succession either, which kind of plays into that when they go back and change it. And remember that?
I know. Now that's a show I did enjoy, even though I didn't understand what was going on all the time, but I just like the heat of it.
And the doomsday ending of it.
I'm sorry, what?
The doomsday ending of that show, where it's like the world has ended when the guy that they pretend to be Trump wins. Remember the final episode? All right.
All I know was that the guy who thought he was going to take over winds up stupefied, as we are right now. Thank you. Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap.
Chicago Tribune has long been one of the most important sources of information about the city and suburbs. Their reporters and editors consider themselves government watchdogs and historians for Chicago. And some of the most recognizable among Tribune employees are columnists, like Eric Zorn, who's been with the paper for 41 years. But this is his last week.
I didn't particularly want to leave. They don't have the kind of space for local columnists and commentary that the Chicago Tribune has had.
All right, Bruce Wolf and Dobie Maxwell. No, I do the knocking.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's my shtick
All right,
on the
sorry.
Weekly Wrap. And we are joined right now by Eric Zorn. Eric, who was that reporter? That wasn't John Bulldog Drummond, was it? Who was that reporter?
I don't remember. I did a whole bunch of different interviews for that particular time in my life. I think that might have been Channel 11.
No, that was 7. So you don't even know. I mean,
that was,
when they become that fungible to you, Eric, I mean, that's awfully condescending of you about the broadcast media. Yes.
It's not that they're fungible, just that, seriously, I was interviewed probably 10, 15 times during that week by local and national news outlets just about what was happening.
Well,
at the Tribune.
I'm so lazy, Eric. Why don't you just give me your best answer for any of those questions right now, and then I'll edit in the question later.
Okay. I'll talk about why I left. If you'd like to talk about it, which is that our company, the Tribune Publishing, was taken over by Alden Global Capital, which has a reputation, as a lot of people know, for buying newspapers and gutting them to make them more profitable. And so they were, and every place they go, I did some research and realized that they don't place much value on columnists. They don't have a lot of columnists, local columnists. A lot of the local commentary that they publish is the stuff that you see from think tanks, and like the Illinois Policy Institute here would contribute columns to Alden papers and so on. But they don't like to pay for opinion content in general, was my conclusion. So when you've got someone who's been around as long as I have, making the kind of money I was making, I knew that they were looking to cut and that I would have a real target on my back. They made a very attractive buyout offer.
How much?
A whole bunch.
Did anybody ask how much?
Well,
79 cents a pound.
Well, no, I mean it's basically a year's pay.
Oh, that's pretty good.
So no, it was a very nice offer.
I mean, for greedy, socially Darwinistic capitalists to offer you a year is not bad.
Yeah, no.
I mean, because everybody, nobody ever talks about the good side of the hyena. So,
it was almost an impossible offer to pass up, and I'm 63, so it's time to think about. I feel like I still got some gas in the tank, some things I might want to pursue. But otherwise, I've just been giving interviews to the media and appearing on podcasts. That's a lot of fun.
Right. It's not something to pass the time. I call this my hobby. So let's see. If you're 63, let me do some math. You were 24 then when you interviewed me in my law office.
That's probably right.
Did a big story. And the law office I was in was probably even smaller than this room that I'm in right now. And I remember you describing, I was doing broadcast, Adobe, on the Loop.
Sure.
That was my first time on the Loop. I was with you the fourth time or something.
I listened to you the first time.
And I'd have my microphone on top of Sullivan's Law Directory and Black's Law Dictionary, neither one of which I ever used for their intended purpose. And Eric wrote about this, a big story in the Tribune. And, of course, because we live in a copycat world of journalism, Sports Illustrated picked up on it. I was in their scorecard section. They had a picture of a cartoon. And then Channel 7 did 2 stories on me. They even copied themselves. So, Eric, how much do I owe you for this? And I know you were just speaking the God's honest truth when you wrote that story, so it wasn't like you were, my publicity agent.
Oh, nothing. I mean, it was a column that my editors really liked, and it got around, and so I think we're even. I mean,
okay.
So Tribune agreed to say we'll keep you on for another 40 years.
All right. So now let's enough with the niceties.
Hoping you'll do something else.
Yeah. Let's start fighting here because I know it's too nice.
But
before we do that, I always love. We interviewed a guy. One of our pilot episodes, one of the Arizona state reps who's behind the audit in Arizona. So first I I wanted him to get out all his books that were behind him for the shot, and you kind of get a picture of a guy just from those books, and it was all about global warming as a farce, stuff like that. So I kind of expected that. I think there were a couple of Scientology books in there as well. I'm not sure, Chris. So if you had to turn around and look at one book on your shelf there, which one would it be?
Well, if I had to turn around and actually look at what's here, I would see my daughter's bookshelf because I'm in my daughter's bedroom.
Wow.
This is a virtual Zoom background that I stole from my college roommate when I was visiting him recently. I said, that's a great bookshelf. I'm going to use it for Zoom. So that's what you're seeing.
So, I mean,
none of these books. I've read none of these books.
You've read none of these books. Yeah, because I saw James Michener. I said, Eric's not a James Michener guy. He's not. He wouldn't have time for.
Is he boiling mad?
Right. So none of these books matters. You're just a phony TV character like we all are right now. You've totally bought into the new media. All right. So what are you going to do with yourself? I mean, you're too young to retire. You are. I mean, we've had disagreements on Twitter and the like. I got to thank you for never blocking me. It's always my goal to get blocked on Twitter. You've never done it. We've had some fights, but you're too young. I mean, you're very talented. What are you going to do?
I don't know. I think I might get back into the game a little bit, doing something that's kind of like what my former colleague John Cass is doing, where he's writing a regular column online. I don't think I want to do that so much as maybe I want to have more of a regular presence online. I was the first person to write a blog for the Tribune. I think I was the first person in Chicago who worked for a major newspaper who wrote a general interest blog. There were some tech blogs, but I was the first guy to blog. I remember going to my editors and having to explain to them what a blog was back in like 2003 or whenever the heck it was. So, but that, because of various platform changes, got away from me, and we stopped doing blogging a couple of years ago. And honestly, blogging went away pretty much with the advent of social media.
Right. I was actually a blogger for the Tribune. Had this blog site for just about anybody you could get in on. Mine was called, and I think Jimmy Greenfield was the guy who was behind it at the Tribune, and mine, he made a nice logo and everything. It was beautiful. You know how you go somewhere and all you get is this lousy T-shirt, and all I got was that wonderfully lousy logo, and it's called Blog Shakalaka, which fit absolutely. And I made up these stories. I was trying to do like an Onion-esque thing. That's what I was dabbling in, and I got myself into some trouble there, like with Ron Majors, because I did some satire that Ron Majors didn't like, and Bill Zwecker, people like that I was skewering with some. And it was actually fun to do, but it's like, this is. I love the democratization of the media, Eric, but. Boy, it's tough. It's competitive, and it's hard to make a buck. I hope you saved.
It's very I did, and it is very competitive. And if I do something like that, if I get back in with a newsletter, a Substack, something like that, it will not be with the idea that I'm going to make that much money, if any money, doing it. It's because I like to do it. I really, one of the things that over all the years I really enjoyed the give and take. I enjoyed sparring with people like you. I enjoyed getting nice letters. I enjoyed getting smart critical letters. And so all of that has gone away, and I'm missing the interaction. I get some of it on social media. We all do. And again, as I was saying, I think that social media, Facebook is essentially a series of interconnected blogs, if you think about it.
Right, yeah.
People are posting, and then they're commenting on each other's sites. I mean, I love that platform. I don't think anybody's making any money on it. I don't know. I might do that. There's also possibility of doing books. I've gotten a couple of feelers from people who want to talk to me about book ideas.
What would the book be about?
Well, see, I don't have any book ideas. That's going to be a problem.
I can't even read a book. Well, you know the old story, the newspaper guys want to write the great American novel, and TV guys just want to read one, and it's kind of difficult for me. But yeah, but that would be great. I mean, you really do have a lot of talent. But let me play Lionel Hutz right now for a second to lead into the next segment. I remember agreeing with you once, and it was your take on Trayvon Martin. And you had very carefully gone through the route that he had taken, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you had said it looked like he could have avoided the confrontation with George Zimmerman, and you weren't gung-ho like the typical liberal columnist, and you might have even taken flack for that. I add that to the fact that you actually wanted to wait for the facts to come out on Adam Toledo, and you were skewered for that. This is the 13-year-old boy who was shot by a cop in Chicago and killed. I'm putting one and one together and making three here. Are you, in fact, a racist, Eric Zorn?
What I am, what I've always considered myself to be is a heterodox liberal. And the Trayvon Martin case is a great example of that, which is like, when that happened, I mean, first of all the images came out of Trayvon Martin, showed him like as a 12-year-old boy. And he wasn't 12 years old, I think he was 17. He didn't look anything like those innocent pictures of him in his baseball jersey. And the idea that George Zimmerman was this large, hulking man who chased him down through the suburbs or the subdivision in Sanford, Florida, and shot him like a dog, that was very appealing to a lot of people. And that's where Al Sharpton and all those guys jumped in to make this a big case. And I just started looking at the map of the subdivision, and I looked at the timeline of the 911 calls and the timeline of the calls that Zimmerman made and that some of the neighbors made and when the fight took place. And I realized that there is no way that this pudgy 30-ish would-be neighborhood watchman, this Paul Blart of the subject.
Eric Zorn, I'm going to cancel you right now. No, we have to take a break. But we're going to pick up on the other side. And maybe you'll get some religion during the break right now. Bruce Wolf, Dovey Maxwell with Eric Zorn, the novelist, coming up after this. Bruce Wolf and Dovey Maxwell on the Weekly Wrap, and our guest is Eric Zorn, the former Tribune columnist, who was right in the middle of a closing argument on behalf of George Zimmerman, because we'd like to do the oldies, the oldies trials. But you were making the case that Trayvon Martin was not. It was not what it was cracked up to be.
Well, it was pretty clearly what happened was that Trayvon Martin saw this guy who was giving him the stink eye and starting to follow him as he walked home, and he decided he would go back and beat his ass, basically. I mean, that seems to be very clearly what happened, because Zimmerman is standing there. If he's going to be hunting down little black children, he's not going to be talking on the phone to the 911 dispatcher. He's standing there waiting for the cops to get there.
No, you'd make a great attorney, because the defense attorney, I work for a plaintiff's firm, and it's all about, how horrible the injury is and everything like that. Defense attorneys want to be sarcastic. Oh, what are you talking about? And this is what Zorn is doing right here. So you might think about another career at age 63. You could do law school in 3 years. You could make partner by 85. So there you go. So, go ahead.
Long and short of it is that, was Trayvon Martin attacking George Zimmerman? Yes, I think that's pretty clearly what happened, and you have to admit that. Now, does that give George Zimmerman cause to shoot him? It probably does under Florida law, which is why, by the way, I have also written columns that make people mad about Kyle Rittenhouse. I don't know if you've
I know.
Those.
Sure.
Is Kyle Rittenhouse? Yeah, it's really a bad idea to march through a protest zone with a gun across your chest, and it's a bad idea if you're underage to be carrying that gun. All those things are true. I probably don't agree with Kyle Rittenhouse's politics about anything, but the guy was being chased by a big old guy who was clearly bent on taking his gun from him and doing God knows what. The guy had been yelling at him.
Next thing I'm going to see, you're going to be storming the Capitol again on January 6th, Eric Zorn. Between this and that, and let's bring up, Adam Toledo, which we mentioned before, 13-year-old kid who was shot by a cop and killed, and there was some question as to whether the kid had a gun in his hand at the time of the shooting, and he really didn't at the time. But whether it's justified or not is another question. But all you wanted to do was wait till the facts came out, and you were attacked. By the way, full disclosure, you went to Michigan, right? I went to the Medill School of Journalism, Northwestern University, or I like to call it the Medill School of Spin right now. And there's I believe it's an ethics professor, and I'm looking for his name right now, but
Stephen Thrasher.
Stephen Thrasher, and he basically said that it's never too early to rush to judgment on a case like this. It's like going through the looking glass. It is sentence first, verdict afterwards. Lewis Carroll wouldn't faze anybody nowadays.
Yeah, it was very Queen of Hearts, and all I said was, what was happening was that protests were taking place throughout the neighborhood down there, talking about a police officer had murdered this child, and everyone was talking about how young he was, and the column I wrote said, look, we don't know what happened here. This was before the video came out. The video hadn't been released yet, and of course we did know that there were gunshots fired in that area, and that's why the police were there. And I said, look, we don't know. A, we don't know what happened, and B, you can't say that because someone is 13 years old that they're like a baby. And some of the people were saying you've murdered a baby, and I pointed out a number of cases where 13-year-olds had committed pretty horrible crimes, just as a way to say, like, let's wait before we decide that this particular incident really means anything.
Well, it's a basic tenet of journalism that you get the facts. I mean, the City News Bureau motto, if your mother says she loves you, check it out. You get all the facts and then come to your conclusions. But this professor is saying no. And here's what I'm saying. You're responsible for people like this, Eric, because you're a liberal and you've created a Frankenstein monster. Do you agree with me?
No, I don't. Of course, I don't agree with you about that. I mean, I took after this guy and finally in a column. I gave him a month. He wrote something like, I'm canceling my subscription to the Tribune, which you're a journalism professor, man, in Chicago. You've got to have a subscription to the Tribune and the Sun-Times and Cranes. Come on.
But the thing is, here the problem is, Eric, is that you're a liberal. You favor diversity as opposed to affirmative action. Affirmative action, in principle, sounds good. It is about where you have a history of discrimination against a discrete and insular minority. You'll give preferential treatment to the black guy as opposed over the white guy, all other things being equal. But then comes along a Nixon appointee named Lewis Powell, Nixon of all people, and in I think it's the Bakke decision, decides, no, what we want is diversity, and we're going to make color a qualification for things. And once you do that, once you make color a qualification and you get rid of the usual qualifications, you can get rid of anything. You can get rid of the tenets of journalism. Everybody's a conservative when it comes to their own thing, and that's what you are. And was it Irving Kristol or somebody else who said a conservative is a liberal who's been mugged by reality? You helped create this, and you're being hoisted by your own petard. Agree or disagree?
Well, the Bakke decision was, 77 or something? I mean,
that's sowed the seeds. Yeah.
But Powell, as I remember that case, Powell was the one who, split the difference. He was the deciding vote, and there were 4 or 5 different opinions in that case, and Powell was the one who decided, we're not going to go by... you can't make it your only qualification, and we can't be about race. It has to be about diversity because diversity benefits everyone. I mean, I remember it was a very delicate argument, as I remember.
So delicate that you can't even parse it.
Yes.
Now here's a dime, Mr. Hart, and I'll go call your mother, and she can take you home.
Well, I mean, my sense of that of the idea of diversity I think it's really important in newsrooms, for instance. It's probably important it's certainly important in other businesses where you need it's a good thing for companies to have that. And what you're looking for when you're trying to diversify a university, trying to diversify a company is people from different backgrounds.
But do you want diversity to become a qualification, the color of someone's skin to become a qualification and substitute for some other qualification? And we know that this happens. I mean, Bill de Blasio in New York was, open about it. He was going to discriminate against Asians in favor of blacks. I mean, it happens at Harvard. We know that this kind of thing happens, and I'm saying that what you get, it metastasizes into something where you get this nutcase professor who should be thrown out on his ass at Northwestern, telling you that he doesn't want to find out who, what, where, when, and why, and how.
Yes, no, that was horrible.
And it's your fault! Because you're a liberal! Because it metastasizes. Okay, go ahead.
I don't think I hardly ever wrote about affirmative action because I think it's...
You don't have to write about it. It's in your blood. I mean, you favor that. You're a liberal. Do you understand how you... I mean, it's the cancel culture. I mean, that's what's happening now. I mean, conservatives are on the sidelines on this. It's liberals. Hey, it's Cuomo in New York right now. I mean, it's the Democrats who are getting rid of him. But this is the kind of thing that happens. You create this monster, and it goes off crazy, and you don't know how to control it anymore.
Well, Colin Kaepernick was a victim of cancel culture from the right. I mean, it's not like one side is totally guilty of trying to ostracize and marginalize people who express opinions they don't agree with. Kathy Griffin. There's a lot of examples of cancel culture. But to circle back to Stephen Thrasher, I waited a month because he accused me in this tweet. Not only did he say he's canceling a subscription, but he also accused me of promoting the murder of children. Which I don't. I just for the record, I want to say that I do not. I do not approve of that. And so, I wrote to him a month. I waited for him to cool down. I wrote to him a month later. I said, "Look, you're a journalism professor. I'd like to open up a dialogue with you, but I'd like to talk about why it is you reacted this way." Because I did that with some other people who had written to me. Because I was pilloried on Twitter, Facebook, and in my own newsroom, which really bothered me, frankly, where there were a number of the younger reporters.
Who pilloried you? Who on earth believes you think this guy's an outlier? He's not. I bet you it was Darlene Glanton. I'll bet you it was she, right? Am I right about that?
No, Darlene was not one of them.
Okay, who was it? Name names. Senator McCarthy, have you no shame? Name us some names right here.
No, I'm not going to throw any old colleagues under the bus, but it was, and the thing that was really bothering me was exactly the way you framed it, Bruce, which is the who, what, where, when, why. This is our job. Our job is to hold up our finger when everybody else is going nuts and say, wait a sec. Or to say, hey, what's really going on here? Is this what it looks like? Rather than to join in the parade and the crowd and grab our torches and pitchforks. Rex Hupke wrote a column on the same topic where he said there are not two sides to the Adam Toledo story. And I'm like, look, there are two sides to every story.
There's more than two sides. If you're an attorney, you find out there's usually 5 or 6 sides.
Yeah. In defense of people who criticized me, I did admit in a follow-up column that I was very coldly analytical about when the 13-year-old kid,
my goodness.
No matter
the bleeding heart liberal didn't bleed enough. You didn't hemorrhage over this.
No, I would say.
See, you'll wind up apologizing like that New York Times guy apologized for did he use the N-word to describe people who use the N-word, and he was trying to special case, and he had to flagellate himself too. That's what you wind up doing.
He tried. No. All I said was that I felt like that I didn't really acknowledge the fact.
You're right. You're a nice guy.
When a 13-year-old goes off the rails, he's 13, and everything has failed him if he's in that. If he's
absolutely right. Absolutely right. But who's failed him? But you failed America, Eric Zorn, because of your liberalism. You caused this. You caused this cancer on our culture. And I hope you write a best-selling novel. I really do. I will even try to read it, and I can't read. So
I'm going to spend the rest of my career trying to make up for what I have done, Bruce.
Hey, you described Chet Chit Chat, I believe, as a fish, the sound of a fish flopping on the bottom of a rowboat or something, which I believe was the. Did I quote you correctly? You probably don't remember, but it was probably the best description.
I haven't memorized all my columns yet. So.
Yes. Well, thank you, Eric. Best of luck to you. Go get some books, some real books, okay?
I'll get some real books. So it has this fake background. Really
okay, we appreciate it. Good luck to you, Eric. Thanks so much.
Hey, Bruce, good luck with this show. It sounds like a lot of fun, so I'll be watching.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And that's the weekly wrap on radio and television. Follow Bruce at Bruce Wolf Shy on Twitter and Tim at timslagle.com. The weekly wrap with Bruce Wolf, a CP Pods production.